Hey guys, Fred Kinds, All Kinds of Classics. Today, this episode, I'm finishing up the lower cowl mount to the frame bracket. So if you go back, not the last video, but the one before that, you'll see the most of the fabrication on the hood supports, the radiator support, all that. There's just a little clip in the beginning, very beginning here, where I finish up the front bracket. I failed, obviously, to video the fabrication of it from what I could find. Anyway, so that's in there, and then I move right along into the fiberglass. Okay, so I'm working on the rear fenders in this video. Take a look, see what you think. Throw me some comments. Hey guys, how are you? Well, this is what I'm working on today. So I'm making the cowl to frame mount, and you can see it's not 90 degrees. The frame starts to taper up right there. So I decided I'd stop here as I got into it and said, hey, wait a minute, I better whip out a quick video. So basically I stuck a piece of cardboard in there and got the profile. I got the top and I got the front on that profile, marked it, how high did I want it to be, how far forward did I want it to be. And I took that profile and carefully drew it on a piece of rectangular tubing because the width was perfect for me. And I just threw it on the tubing and then blew it out, with the plasma torch. One and the other. Then I just stuck them together. I took a vice grip, clamped this end and this end, stuck them together, and then I took a flapper disc and cleaned up that profile, switched ends, cleaned up that profile until visually they were the same. Okay. Then I took another piece of 7 gauge and I cut out the inside piece and for the slip fit. Took both pieces now that were finished before I welded this in. Took both pieces before I was finished and went and chucked them in the mill and then milled slots into them so that they have some adjustment. Took the flat stock, chucked it in the mill, the 2 pieces in the mill, and did the same. Then I took each piece individually, going back to the frame, and I bolted on that piece. This is just hanging here for instruction purposes. Took the flat 7 gauge piece, stuck him in, and butted him up against the back of this. These were tight. It was sitting where I wanted it to sit. I dropped this in on the frame. And then you can see I put a spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, and right there, another spot weld, wherever I can get the torch in there. Okay, did that for both sides. Again, I always try to make things in pairs so I can get mirror images. Then I took them out and I stuck them in the vise and took a cutoff wheel and cut back 3/16 all the way around so that I would get full penetration. And you can see that indeed I got full penetration. So and then of course just took and finished them out, so they'd sit in the frame nice and flat and bolt down nice and tight and paint up good. Now my next step is to remove those spot welds. The thing is, when you're working with 3/16, it's hard to keep a small spot weld. But the other thing that you may or may not be noticing on here is that it tapers in. And that's because I wanted clearance on the frame. So when these bolt in, I'm following the frame, and this frame progressively gets narrower as you come to the front. So this falls behind. I know the hood's not going to hit it, but it just looks, cosmetically, it looks right. So when I had this bolted in and that in before I tacked it, I put a clamp on and pinched that together so that both sides, again, are mirror images, but follow that. You can kind of see the outsides, but narrow as they come down. In fact, I went from side to side to make sure that I had the clamp in the same position and that kind of thing, that I was clamping at the same position behind that bolt, just so that they would be meet my expectations when they were finished. So anyway, that's kind of a little brief deal here. I'm going to come in here. I'm waiting for sanding belts for my finger sander, because that'll kick those down pretty quickly. And when you start to get into the backside, you don't have a lot of clearance. So those work pretty good for that. Just to clean those up, and then those two pieces will be done. And I'll move on to something else. So just a quick video to kind of show you how I built those the firewall mounts on the front of the cab. Thanks, guys. Well, there's the final version prepped. I got the bottoms cleaned up. You can see some grind marks in there. Put some lightning holes in. They just look too massive. So I cleaned them up a little bit and got them in. So when they paint up, they'll look great, and I'm happy with them. I'm going to continue on just fabricating, and then when I need to get everything over to paint and for the brackets or all this stuff here, the plan is this. It will all be black, the radiator support and all that. Down low, and these brackets and these brackets, I'm going to sandblast them and powder coat them. They just aren't going to last with that paint on them. So, thanks, guys. Well, sorry, it's winter, so the furnace is running. You're going to hear that in the background. Sorry. You can see that if any of you have worked with fiberglass, you know that you hate fiberglass. So at this point, then you can see I got holes. These were earlier installs, and fails. They were fails. All those will need to be refilled in, which isn't a big deal because I knew I'd be glassing for a flange anyway. But I sanded everything down, pretty much to a knife edge, and back about 3 inches all the way around. And so on the inner fender, I'm taped out all the way up here. I found that in my experience with when I lay down a layer of tape, the glue goes to shit during the curing process, and it does come off. You can always pull the tape off anyway, and you can get it off. But I don't have any fiberglass then bonding to the paint and all that shit. So these 3 here are hangers that help support the fender. You can see here that I put a flat washer. I got 3 lock washers and then another small flat washer. So I'm going to come in with the glass on my first layer and retain or embed, if you will, those large flat washers. I won't do these. I'll do these 3, and then I'll pull these out and repeat the process. So I'll leave a little bit of room here until I can get the rig to stay, and then I will shave the inside. Well, I'll pull it off, then I'll shave the inside to a aesthetic look, and then commence layering fiberglass and building that back out to about 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch thick, but whatever that winds up being, 4 or 5 layers of mat. I'll probably start with cloth on the top side on the first layer, so that I can get a nice fill, and then I'll come back and put mat in to take up the volume. So that's where I'm at. Again, fiberglass. Oh, how did I line it up? So I put this guy. This is just a sheetrock tee. And I put them on the fender and mark the floor, you know, in 3 or 4 spots, all the way down. In this case, the left side, this side. Then I pulled a string line across those marks to the back. And so that's how I get my straight tape line. And then I taped over the string line, or over the chalk line. I say string line, chalk line. And then, of course, I'll line the rear fender up so that visually the everything's aligned. But the other benefit is that I can get the fender out as wide as I possibly can. I can't go any wider than this because the door, when it opens, right, will hit the fender. You can see right there, you know, just even on the fender brace, about what, 3/4 of an inch there. But once I put the fender on, chalk it up, get the angles and everything set. I have the car leveled. And you know, I can play with this. I think I'm pretty straight in there. I bumping that, but I'll make sure the car is level. And then what I typically do in this case on these small things is I'll set something like that on the fender. I want to make sure that I'm, you know, 90 or open, you know, or greater, you know, 91, 92 degrees, but whatever, something so water doesn't run in that way. Of course, the fender's round this way, so depending on where the fender's at, I'll match both sides. When I did mock it up, it was 91 degrees. You know, it was just a little open. So, gosh, I just love fiberglass. Anyway, that's the next element of the game, is to get those. And then after I get all that done, it'll work perfect. And then you got the stress and anxiety of making the other one look exactly like it. And in this case, you know, you can run across the car and all that stuff. It's just not as convenient as, you know, shooting a level. And this was complicated, but was just easier than what I anticipate this being. It'll take a lot of thinking. And of course, fiberglass. All right, we'll catch you later. And I tell you, I didn't like fiberglass. Oh my God. So, everything taped out. This is where I modified it originally and you know, put those holes in it. But I'm beginning to fill that in, and it's following the body contour as it sits right there. Underneath, you can see I just put a band of fiberglass. Now each one of these bolts, then I have a stack of 3 lock washers in the big flat washer, and I'm embedding those in. Whoops. The lock washers will come out, of course, but when I remove it, I'll take the lock washers out, and I wanted to use a piece of tubing that I could grind down, but couldn't find any. And then I'll get this layered up. I got a layer cloth and a layer of mat on it right now, and it's time for me to pack up and get ready for work. But after I get a band that goes onto the interior side of those washers, you know, I'll end in there maybe an inch beyond those washers. Then I'll come back and
you know, 3, 4, maybe the 4th layer. I can start piling in here now, right? And then I'll cover that, and then I'll go for a wider strip, maybe 2 of those. So I probably got 2 narrow strips and 2 more wider strips, and then I'll have 4 layers going across, and this will stack up because it has to step down a little to go into the fender well. But it's cruising along fine. I just hate fiberglass. But that's the structure so far.
You know, in the last little excerpt, I said I hate fiberglass, ugh, so on and so forth. It's not that fiberglass is a bad thing. You know, I don't mind using fiberglass fenders and stuff like that, especially when you're trying to do unicorns. You know, if this were a Ford, you'd find everything, but it's not. It's a Dodge. And I could find these, and I didn't want to hammer out and go in search of and all that kind of thing. Number one. Number two was I knew that a 1933 set of fenders isn't going to fit. And yeah, you could go in and you can metal fab and all that. I know. I just found this path to be, I don't know what I wanted to do, I guess. I don't know what else to say about it. Anyway, another brief one, but you can see there is fiberglass in every one of these holes. I moved the brackets now, so I got 6 mounting locations. And so I moved those support brackets one by one, swapped them with the the one next to it. And then I proceeded in laying down another row. And basically what I want to do is get it to a point where I can pop it off and then put it on a bench and lay it up. I just want to keep the shape. So at this point, I'm probably about there. I got two. Well, I got of course, I have the cloth on, and then I've got 2 to 3 layers of mat on right now, except for, that's only got 1 layer because of the brackets. Just a little band of 1 layer there, a little bit on the back side of that band. But I think I'm in a position where I can start to consider maybe I'll do another like inside row or something. The thing is I don't want to try to let the adhesion to the tape, take these off and run a row in there and then fall off the dang car, right? So at this point, I think I'll let this set up and I'll probably pop this sucker off and be very, very, very excited and happy about how it turned out. No, I have some experience doing this, so I'm pretty confident that it'll work. So then I'll go in and I'll do the whole thing. And you can see again, I embedded large washers, bolted them up, snugged them, not torqued them, but I mean snugged them down with lock washers to give me some distance. And then I can go up there with my zip and cut off all the hairs and stuff and pop them out, leaving the washer in, dig the lock washers out, and I have a nice flat surface. Then I can just comb this whole thing with strips going in the direction of the fender and build it out. So I'm pretty happy that it's working. I've checked it several times. She's still straight up and down with the world. So life is good. Thanks for watching. Give some comments. Remember, like everything, life comes in pairs. I sit here and preach that as I build brackets, I always do them in pairs because I want mirror images. I didn't do that here, and I'll use the exact same setup process. I'll use everything that I did on this side. I'll copy it and do that side. This takes substantially more time and consideration during that time than just running back and forth.
And it was all the monitoring, you know, am I straight up and down? Oh, I bumped it. I better check it. All that stuff has got to happen. I've been very, very, very fortunate thus far. Clocking them, making sure the front and passenger and driver are in the same spot. It sits on top of this bracket. I'll mark this bracket at the distance it went in, even though I know it's just sitting right on this edge right here. Just to identify that I didn't go any farther in. When I go to this side, still have to get that bumper mount off, that cast bumper mount. I started on the rivets and then I just stopped and focused on one side. You can see there's evidence that I was going to try to do them in pairs, but such isn't the case. Anyway, thanks folks, and we'll catch you on the next one. And thanks for the comments, appreciate it, and we'll keep rolling from here. Well, I'll be.
Still got a little tape. It all didn't come off. What I did was I carefully peeled as much back. I mean, over here I'm around the corner, but I peeled as much tape back as I could, kind of like this here. And then of course just started with air and compressed air, blowing it in and just working it. You can see a fair amount, you know, with the fiberglass resin on it, a fair amount is still on there, and fiberglass came off along and left the tape, and then the fiberglass came off and took the tape with it. So basically, about that, just trying to shrink it so I can get a little more. This is the unit now, bonded up. You can see I laid it over. I'm well beyond the mounting locations. Some of them captured some of those washers and that kind of thing. Excuse me. And so now I'll go in here and I'll flush this out, right, on that side. On this side, you can see I got the acetone, and I'm slowly picking off the tape and wiping it and the remnants. I got to about this point here, and then I started thinking, wait a minute, go grab the video opportunity. So I did quickly layer this up, but essentially now we have that body line. Remember, I marked it on the outside of that bead. That body tucks under here, a little bit of a trough where the fiberglass comes and rolls around, you know, and that'll all get filled. So now I'll take and I'll rough all of this up, and then this side I'm going to finish filling these holes. Then I'll taper this down to this surface. There's, you know, very, very little edge, but I'll taper this down all the way around, you know, at least an inch in, and then this will get cloth. This will get a layer of cloth all the way around it. And then after these are filled, the layer of cloth goes on. And come back on the back side and clear out those holes again. Lock it, keep it a little low, and then blow the whole thing with gel coat. On this side, say, you know, basically the same thing, right? I'm going to clean all the surface off, and then I'll build. You know, I got, oh, I don't know, it's probably not as much as it appears in the camera, but you know, there's not an eighth, maybe an eighth of an inch. And so I'll build this up. Maybe that'll be a layer of matte, and then I'll come in, clean all this up, and come in with a layer of matte all the way down. Probably get another layer of matte up here too, because this area of course was built out last, and so this is only 2 layers thick. So getting the cloth on the top side to pull it all together,
It's got a band, if you remember, of cloth going down the inside. I cut it around the bolts, and laid that in, and then everything else was matte, because the matte builds. The cloth has that tension strength to it. So then I'll have this all built up. It'll be about, like that. Good. Here's a 1/2 inch wrench. So 3/16, that kind of thing in terms of thickness. So coming along, getting pretty excited. Again, I got to do another one of these. Not going to do any trimming or finish work on it until I got the other one sitting on here too. So I'm just building them all out right now. Building them all out and getting them ready to finish up. I can see right now, I just noticed, I got a great big air pocket right there. So when I come and sand this, I'll sand through that and blend that. Might put one small piece on, but I don't want that. I don't want an air pocket in it. A lot of this stuff like that's whatever. There's a piece of fiberglass, original fiberglass on there that I went over, and most of that'll block out. This, this will just come out when I sand it. Stuff like that I don't like. There's another one, and that's because I was going in around a corner. But I'll clean all that up, make sure that it's got resin attached to the cloth, and go from there. So we are making some significant progress, and it is starting to look like it's supposed to look. All right, more later, guys. Thanks for watching. Well, my son came over for Thanksgiving. That's what today is, and it's time to go in. But right now we got the second side lined out, got the hangers on, got it all masked out, the spacer set, and he put a whole bunch more tape on to just make my life that much more miserable, but that's fine. 6 bolts, every other for the first setup, glass it in, go to the second set, glass it in, and we just were checking flatness because it's fiberglass, and we had to, this particular fender we had to crunch together, and we just wanted to make sure we're checking the wheelhouse from side to side and the radius and everything else. I trust the car to a certain degree, but you don't trust everything. Double checks are always good. So this one needs to look like the mirror image of that one, in the very near future. So having fun. Well, we have the other side on now. Of course, the second one always goes faster than the first one, but he's on, sneaking through. Everything looks good. Clamped it up, nice and straight. This side's free hanging. I mean, it's bolted on with like 2 bolts. Then I stuck one of my wife's old tires under here. That's a 245 40/20. 245. Where is it? It's either a 40 or a 45/20. And he's pretty, there's the back, so it looks like it probably will be, if I could do a low profile, probably be able to get it in there. But I wasn't looking at doing a low profile, but just playing because I'm waiting for the other side to dry. Anyway, that's going good. I got that done, and then I got that side filled. I have these brackets under here to do yet. I was going to jump into them, but they're just a flag. You see it? It's just a flag in here. It's about 1/4 of an inch away. That one's bent down properly, and
This one's bent down not properly. I have to move him out just a little bit. And I try to pound on it, it just vibrates that whole bar, so I gotta figure out a way to do that. Hopefully without taking the whole works off. Anyway, and that you put it on there, you can shim them a little bit, you know, get it into a location and then be able to add shims or large fender washers, you know, that kind of stuff into there. So anyway, that's what I got. It's going well. Gonna keep plugging away. When they cure, I gotta start doing the outside, right? So